It was just after 7:30 a.m. on June 18, 1982. A postal worker crossing Blackfriars Bridge in London glanced down at the muddy banks of the River Thames. What he saw would unravel a mystery that leads to the highest levels of finance, Freemasonry, and faith. The body was that of Roberto Calvi, the president of Italy's largest private bank, Banco Ambrosiano. His pockets were stuffed with bricks and thousands of dollars in multiple currencies. The initial report called it suicide, but nothing about this was simple. Calvi was known as God's banker because his most important, most secretive client was the Institute for Religious Works, the Vatican Bank. His death was a key that unlocked a world of shadowy deals, a secret Masonic lodge, and a dark, bloody alliance between two of the world's most powerful and secretive institutions, the Vatican and the Sicilian Mafia. To understand how this was possible, you have to understand the two fortresses. On one hand, the Vatican, the spiritual center for over 1 billion Catholics, a sovereign city-state with its own laws, its own bank, and a divine mission. It presented a face of piety and ancient tradition, but within its walls was the Istituto per le Opere di Religione, or the Vatican Bank, a financial entity with unparalleled secrecy, immune to Italian banking laws, and, as we will see, the perfect vehicle for moving money beyond the sight of tax authorities and police. And on the other side, Cosa Nostra, our thing. The Sicilian Mafia, a criminal empire built on heroin, extortion, and murder. By the 1970s and 80s, their most profitable business was the heroin pipeline to the United States, the infamous Pizza Connection. This generated billions of dollars in cash, literal mountains of dirty money that needed to be cleaned. The Mafia's problem was simple, but immense: how to transform billions in small dirty bills into clean, investable capital outside of Italy. They needed a laundromat, a powerful, untouchable, and discreet financial institution that no Italian prosecutor could ever fully investigate. They needed a miracle, and they found one, not from God, but from a group of corrupt financiers and clerics who saw an opportunity. The stage was set for a dark alliance, and it required 3 key players to make it work.
Player number 1, Michele Sindona, a Sicilian-born financial wizard who built a massive empire in the 1960s and 70s. He was ruthless, brilliant, and well-connected. His nickname was the Shark, and his most important connection was with the Vatican. For decades, the Vatican had vast investments it needed to manage discreetly. Sindona became their man. He helped them move money, hide assets, and make profitable, if questionable, investments. He was so trusted that he was the financial advisor to Pope Paul VI. But Sindona's empire was a house of cards, built on fraud and phantom companies. In 1974, it all came crashing down. The Franklin National Bank, which Sindona had bought and plundered, collapsed, the largest bank failure in American history at the time. The Italian authorities began investigating his other banks, finding a massive hole of over $200 million. Much of that money was linked to the Vatican. Sindona was indicted in the US and Italy. Facing ruin, he made a desperate move. In a plot that sounds like a crime thriller, he staged his own kidnapping to extort money from his family and buy time. The ruse failed. While on trial in the US, he was also convicted in Italy. The Vatican was exposed, embarrassed, and financially wounded. But Sindona was just the first domino. Before he fell, he introduced a crucial friend to his Vatican contacts, a man named Licio Gelli.
Player number 2, Licio Gelli, a former fascist, a financial fixer, and most importantly, the Grand Master of a secret Masonic lodge known as Propaganda Due, or P2. This wasn't your typical fraternal lodge. P2 was a shadow government, a clandestine network of Italy's most powerful men. When the P2 membership list was discovered in 1981, it read like a who's who of the Italian establishment. Its goal? To infiltrate the state and steer Italy away from communism by any means necessary. And for Gelli, that meant controlling finance and information. He needed a bank. Through Sindona, Gelli met Roberto Calvi, the ambitious manager who would become president of Banco Ambrosiano. With Gelli's secret backing and connections, Calvi rose to the top. Ambrosiano became the P2 Lodge's bank, and Gelli had a brilliant, criminal idea. He would use the Vatican Bank as a shield. The scheme was diabolical. The Vatican Bank, under its president, Archbishop Paul Marcinkus, an American who was also allegedly on the P2 list, would provide letters of patronage. These were secret letters that effectively guaranteed billions of lira in loans from Calvi's bank to phantom companies in Panama and elsewhere. On paper, the Vatican was liable. In reality, the money was being siphoned away to prop up failing companies, for Gelli's political schemes, and crucially, to launder the Mafia's drug money. The Vatican Bank was the perfect, untouchable laundry machine.
Player number 3, Roberto Calvi himself, God's banker. He was the linchpin, the man whose signature moved the money. But by 1981, the House of Cards was trembling. The Bank of Italy was investigating Ambrosiano's strange international deals. They were asking pointed questions about the Vatican links. Then, the earthquake. In March 1981, police raided Licio Gelli's offices and discovered the infamous P2 membership list. The scandal exploded. Calvi's name was on it. His protector was exposed. In a panic, Calvi started destroying documents, but it was too late. In July 1981, Calvi was convicted of illegally exporting billions of lira. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison. He was released pending appeal, but his world was collapsing. The banks were closing in, demanding repayment on the loans that the Vatican's secret letters had guaranteed. Calvi knew that if those letters became public, it would prove the conspiracy and destroy the Vatican Bank's credibility. He was trapped between the law, the Mafia, and the church. He began to fear for his life.
But to understand the full depth of this conspiracy, we must rewind to 1978 and the story of a man who tried to break the chain. On August 26, 1978, Cardinal Albino Luciani was elected Pope. He took the name John Paul I. He was a humble, pastoral man, loved for his gentle smile. But Pope John Paul I had a mandate for reform. He was deeply troubled by the corruption within the Vatican, specifically the murky dealings of the Vatican Bank. According to multiple sources, including David Yallop's book In God's Name, the new pope had a list of senior clerics he intended to remove. At the top of that list, Archbishop Paul Marcinkus, the head of the Vatican Bank. He also spoke of dismantling the P2 Lodge's influence. On the morning of September 29, 1978, just 33 days into his papacy, Pope John Paul I was found dead in his bed. The official cause was a heart attack, but there was no autopsy. The Vatican's handling of the death was rushed and secretive. The body was embalmed immediately. This sparked instant suspicion. Why no autopsy for the most important spiritual leader in the world? Why the haste? The official story was that he had been reading Thomas à Kempis's The Imitation of Christ when he died, but the embalmer later stated the book in his hands was different. Whispers of murder began to circulate. The theory is stark. Pope John Paul I was killed to prevent him from cleaning house. By removing Marcinkus, he would have exposed the entire financial pipeline that Gelli, Calvi, and the Mafia depended on. His death paved the way for the election of the more politically seasoned Karol Wojtyla, Pope John Paul II, who initially kept Marcinkus in his position. For the conspirators, the crisis was averted. For Calvi, it was a temporary stay of execution.
Which brings us back to the body under Blackfriars Bridge. In June 1982, with his appeals exhausted and prison looming, Calvi fled Italy. Using a fake passport, he traveled to London. He was desperate. He was reportedly trying to negotiate with his Mafia creditors to secure the release of some of the laundered money to save his bank. The official inquest initially ruled suicide. It made no sense. How does a man hang himself from a bridge with his feet touching the water and then stuff his own pockets with bricks and money? In 2002, forensic experts re-examined the case. They found no paint or rust from the scaffolding on his shoes. His fingertips showed no damage from handling the rough bricks. Traces of a sedative were found in his body. The new verdict? Murder. Multiple Mafia turncoats, or pentiti, have since testified that Calvi was killed by the Sicilian Mafia. He had lost their money, over $200 million of their drug cash. In the eyes of Cosa Nostra, that was a death sentence. The theory is that he was drugged, taken to the bridge, and strung up to make it look like a Masonic suicide, Blackfriars Bridge being a chillingly symbolic location. It was a clear message: you don't cross the Mafia or their allies.
The fallout was catastrophic. Banco Ambrosiano collapsed, causing an international financial scandal. The Vatican, facing immense pressure, was forced to respond. While admitting no legal guilt, it paid $250 million to Ambrosiano's creditors as a goodwill gesture, a tacit admission of moral responsibility. Archbishop Marcinkus, shielded by Vatican immunity, never faced trial. He always maintained his innocence. Licio Gelli was eventually jailed for other crimes, including the collapse of Banco Ambrosiano. Michele Sindona was extradited to Italy, where he died in prison in 1986 after drinking a cyanide-laced coffee, another suspected Mafia hit. The Vatican implemented some financial reforms, but the stain remained. The dark alliance, it seemed, had been severed by exposure, death, and prison. But is the story really over? In 2010, Italian authorities seized $30 million from the IOR after investigating a money laundering operation. The Vatican Bank's president was forced to resign. Pope Francis, elected in 2013, made cleaning up the Vatican's finances a central mission, famously stating he wanted a poor church for the poor. Yet, as recently as 2021, the Pandora Papers leak revealed that the Vatican's Secretariat of State had invested hundreds of millions in London real estate through a labyrinth of offshore shell companies, again raising questions of financial opacity and potential money laundering. The fundamental problem remains. The Vatican Bank is still a non-transparent financial institution inside a sovereign state. For any criminal organization looking to launder money, that is an irresistible target. The methods may have evolved from suitcases of cash to complex digital transactions, but the temptation and the potential for corruption never truly went away.
The story of the Vatican and the Mafia is not a simple whodunit. It's a sprawling narrative of how power, when combined with absolute secrecy, can corrupt absolutely. It connects the confessional booth to the heroin den, the papal palace to the Masonic lodge. It shows us that the darkest alliances are not forged in shadows, but in the blinding light of day, hidden behind a veil of respectability. The bodies of Roberto Calvi and Pope John Paul I are long buried. The financiers and the hitmen are mostly dead. But the systems that enabled this dark alliance, secrecy, unaccountable power, and the endless flow of dirty money, are still very much with us. The question we are left with is not just what happened, but could it happen again? What did you think of this dark chapter in history? Was Roberto Calvi murdered? What about Pope John Paul I? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to dive deeper into the world of unsolved mysteries and historical conspiracies, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching.